Today I'll be reading this story called Raccoon on His Own. But before we start reading, I wanted to tell you a little bit about some of the things in this story that you might not know much about. The first animal that I want to tell you about is a raccoon, because this story is all about raccoons. Raccoons have black spots around their eyes that make them look like they're wearing a mask. You can find raccoons in the woods or in swamps or even in cities like ours, Boston, but you never want to go up to a raccoon even though they look really cute because they are wild animals. If you were listening closely when I told you about raccoons, you might have heard me say the word swamp. A swamp is a place that's outside. It's very wet and mushy, and parts of it are almost always covered with water. Trees and vines grow in or around the swamp. A lot of swamps look like rivers and some kind of just look like puddles. There's lots of different swamps. The next one is a crawfish. That name is a little bit confusing because it's not a fish. It's more like a little crab or a tiny lobster. And a lot of people call these crayfish or crawdads. There's a few different names for them, but in this story they call them crawfish. And crawfish live in rivers or in swamps, and they dig in the mud and live in the mud. So this is a crawfish hole that they dig in. The last animal I want to tell you about before we read the story is a merganser. I didn't even really know what this one was when I was reading, and I had to look it up. So this is just another type of duck. Just like there's different types of dogs and different types of cats, there's lots of different types of birds too. And this is a different type of duck called a merganser. And those are the merganser's ducklings, just like in Make Way for Ducklings that we read the other day. All right, now that you guys know all those words, we can start reading. Raccoon on His Own by Jim Arnosky. In the dark swamp, a new day dawned, like a sleepy eye, opening slowly. A small wooden boat floated, nudged against some mud. The mud was soft and sandy. A mother raccoon with her young came to dig and search for food. Mother found a crunchy crawfish. Two of the young raccoons dug for crawfish near the boat. The third young raccoon was not hungry. He wanted to climb. The hungry raccoons quickly dug up all the mud around the boat. With no sticky mud to hold it, the boat began to float away. The raccoon in the boat looked up. A chill ran down his spine. He was drifting in the boat, alone. He was on his own for the very first time. Afraid to jump into the dark water, he stared back at the mud bank. The boat silently carried him downstream. The raccoon reached up to grab a sturdy branch and climb out of the moving boat, but the branch was too high. The boat glided under another branch. This branch was low enough to climb, but the raccoon saw the shape of a long snake draped across the branch, and he ducked down. He crawled to the other end of the boat. Downstream, he saw shadowy shapes of plants and trees sticking up out of the water. The raccoon looked down into the dark stream and saw a raccoon looking back. His reflection kept him company as the boat moved along through air so still, on water so smooth. As the boat passed through a bunch of water lilies, something huge made a great splash. It was a great big alligator that had been hiding under the lily pads. Sweet, 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 came a sound from above. The raccoons looked up and saw 5 young warblers. Sweet, 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 the birds called down. The raccoon chirred back. Three tiny turtles swam up to the boat. The raccoon reached into the water to touch one turtle's shell, and all 3 scattered away. A mother merganser paddled by, leading her 9 little ducklings. The raccoon watched the ducklings swimming close to their mother. Suddenly, the boat jumped into another mud bank and stopped. The raccoon saw his family coming to meet him. He ran to his mother. And just like that, they were all together again. Downstream.